The Rundown is brought to you by Commonwealth Brewery Limited.
Good evening. This is The Rundown. I'm Julian Reed, guest hosting for Clint Watson, who is on leave this week. Well, everyone's talking about it, and they're glued to their television sets tonight or their phones to witness the extensive coverage of the United States election. Now, at the top of the ticket is the presidential race between Democratic candidate Vice President Kamala Harris and Republican candidate former President Donald Trump. Now, results of some of the exit polls are out already at this hour. CNN is reporting Republican wins in the states of Indiana and Kentucky, but American pollsters say whomever scores a majority of votes in the 7 swing states of Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nevada may have the path to a clear victory. The U.S. presidential election process is like none other. Whichever candidate secures 270 electoral votes will become president. Now, the Bahamas is just like the rest of the world. We're watching the highly contested race. Many Americans live here, and of course, many Bahamians live over there. But we understand there are several watch parties tonight, as Bahamians have their say as well. And joining us tonight are 2 Bahamians who've lived in the United States and represented the Bahamas in diplomatic and consular capacities. They've experienced the American election process. We want you to hear their take on how this year's elections will impact national, regional, and international relations. Stay with us. The Rundown returns after this.
That's the bear of the Bahamas. I like to go down. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Buy JBI.
We've come to appreciate the JBI product. Simply doesn't matter where they're staged or where they're located. We always realize that JBI has the best pricing and the best quality of food. In particular, my favorite is corned beef. I was a hometown boy. So if I can purchase anything, it can be this JBI corned beef straight through.
As you get a bit older, you become more discriminating and what you put in your bodies. And all of this is natural stuff. So I am happy to promote the Junkanoo Punch.
I actually compared it to a couple of brands, and this is the one of choice. This one, this the can't fail brand. So.
Buy JBI.
Happy 30th anniversary, JBI.
Happy 30th anniversary to JBI.
Thank you, Bahamas.
Losing your furniture to costly termite damage? You need Rentokil Initials Drop and Go Furniture Fumigation, the only service like it in the Bahamas. Simply drop your furniture at a fumigation container located at 5th Terrace, Centerville, and collect your termite-free piece within days. Sealed with our termite-free guarantee. Fast, convenient, affordable. When it comes to complete termite eradication, there's only one name, Rentokil Initial.
Welcome back, and thanks for tuning in. And of course, we're all watching the live coverage of the U.S. elections. Some of the results have already started to come in. Now, here are some of the latest projections from CNN.com. Vice President Harris has won the states of Vermont. Former President Donald Trump won the states of Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia. And well, more than half of the American visitors the ZNS network interviewed at the Nassau Cruise Port downtown yesterday are throwing their full support behind former President Donald Trump. While on the flip side of things, Vice President Kamala Harris supporters say she has on her boxing gloves and will put up a good fight as she inches one step closer to becoming the first Black and Asian female president of the United States.
Because she support the Spanish people, the non-Spanish for all the people go illegal or whatever. So she support more, you know.
So you're ready for Kamala Harris?
I vote already, so I like her. I don't like Donald Trump. Too racist.
Trump.
Why Trump?
Because he's a better man. We don't need 4 more years of that we got. That's all.
And what do you want to see changed in the U.S.?
Everything. Everything. The gas prices, the border patrol, everything.
My hopes are high, and I really think it's going to happen.
And if it doesn't?
I'm just going to break down and cry. Donald Trump is going to send us to the poorhouse.
You know, I think because he has history and some experience as far as being president. So I think because of that, that's why I support him.
Because he's going to make America great again. That's why. He's a businessman. We need a businessman to run this country. That's why. Bring our economy back. Bring our people back. That's why.
We respect his values, everything he stands for. You know, we're sick of taking everybody's crap. You know, tired of getting pushed around. I'm a veteran myself anyway.
He can't be bought like the Democrats. Pretty much that, you know. Need a leader, not a puppet.
We want better taxes. We want cheaper groceries, cheaper gas, you name it.
Well, some Iraqi vendors believe that anytime the U.S. coughs, the Bahamas catches a cold. And this bodes true as tourism is the country's lifeline. Well, in fact, they are prepared to work under a Harris or Trump administration as long as the tourism numbers continue on an upward trend.
Most of the visitors that I show for, they are supporting Kamala Harris. Personally, I prefer her myself as a Bahamian, and I think he'll do well. He'll make history.
Donald Trump kept the economy good, so Donald Trump probably would be a better candidate for the U.S. as far as it goes with economy-wise, but since I work in the tourism industry, the people in the U.S. would be making a little bit more money, so it'd be more easier for us to get jobs, or the economy would be flowing a little bit more better in the U.S. for people to come here to the Bahamas to visit and spend a little bit more money. But like I said, Harris been VP for 4 years, and I haven't seen no difference.
Well-known American political commentator, nationally syndicated columnist, and talk show host Armstrong Williams have been reporting on the American political climate for decades. He weighed in on the U.S. presidential elections with our Felicity Dovell, and I believe you're going to find this very, very interesting.
With his ear to the ground on U.S. election day today, media mogul Armstrong Williams took a moment to speak with ZNS News, making a prediction on these hotly contested elections.
Who will win the White House? Donald Trump. Donald Trump will win because Donald Trump has what is necessary in terms of the message on the issues that Americans care about most.
Vice President Kamala Harris, he said, has done a phenomenal job in the face of little time to build a campaign. However, he does not believe that she will overwhelmingly receive the black vote.
Overwhelmingly, the vice president is losing the vote of black men, and not because they're black. Everything is made so much about race and gender in this country. Many Americans who happen to be black, who are men, see themselves in the entrepreneurial mindset. Their businesses, they have real estate. You know, early on, the vice president floated out that she would tax unrealized capital gains taxes. That scared the bejesus out of people.
Mr. Williams added that her policies with regard to the gay agenda do not sit well with black men. Donald Trump, however, has to rein in his erratic behavior if he becomes president.
He's very vindictive. He can be very petty. Sometimes he acts as though he's above the law. He has said he will go after his enemies. If this is the Donald Trump that returns to power, it would be not only disastrous for America, but for the world.
Williams said that morality will become more important than a robust economy, and that's where Donald Trump will need to improve for the sake of countries like the Bahamas. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm Felicity Davo.
When the rundown continues, 2 former members of the Bahamian Diplomatic Corps weigh in on tonight's U.S. elections. Stay with us.
Mario.
Hey Dale, what's going on?
Have you seen ZNS new digital platforms?
No. Let me go check it out.
Good day, Bahamas. I'm Devontae Hanna, and this is ZNS Digital,
where we cater to your news and entertainment needs. Are you a foodie? I thought so. Then look out for Digital Bites.
Shining a light on Bahamians and the good that they do, ZNS Digital is home to the Sunshine Room.
Keeping up with the latest trends, our original content will keep you entertained.
Yeah, that's cool.
But have you seen the new website?
No, I didn't see it. Let me go look.
We're still your most trusted source for news and information.
That's ZNS Digital?
Yeah, that's ZNS Digital, the people station in your pocket.
Is the Little Caesars Stuffed Crust Pizza. Get more pizza for less money. Only $12. It's a whole new level of pizza with cheese stuffed crust so spectacular that there's nothing left.
Pizza.
A delicious pepperoni pizza with the crust stuffed with lots of cheese and brushed with butter and garlic flavor and sprinkled with Parmesan cheese. Hot and ready Thursday to Saturday between 4 and 8 for only $12. Simply irresistible. And only at Little Caesars.
Pizza.
Welcome back. Now, we've got some more U.S. presidential election projections from CNN.com to tell you about. Former President Donald Trump has won Florida, no surprise there, Tennessee, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Missouri. Now, this in addition to the states we just reported, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia. Vice President Kamala Harris has won the District of Columbia, Massachusetts, Maryland, in addition to Vermont. Now, joining us are 2 diplomats, former diplomats, one who was the Bahamas ambassador to the United States, Mr. Sidney Colley, and one who was the consul general in a key area as well to Atlanta, Senator Randy Rule. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Great. We're seeing some initial projections, which will probably become into fruition as a real sort of votes for either candidate at this point. But first, why don't you talk about your experience in the United States, and we'll start with you, Mr. Colley, about what it was like, the whole political scene in Washington, D.C., particularly around election times. I believe during your tenure you were there during one of the elections period cycles, right?
Yes, I was. Well, I came
from a country where elections and politics are taken very seriously. Bahamas, actually in the Caribbean. And I myself was deeply involved in elections for many years. So going to the United States, in particular in Washington, D.C., in the Washington District of Columbia, Maryland, and Virginia area, steeped in politics and elections. And so I got an opportunity to see the American system in play up close. In many respects, I involved myself to the extent that a foreign diplomat can involve themselves. It was very interesting, certainly a different system. The representative government system is different from the parliamentary system of government. But politics is politics worldwide.
And there's consistent lobbying in D.C., isn't there? I mean, there's a whole industry set to lobbying for whatever point you want to get across.
K Street is ground zero for the center of politics and diplomacy and government and everything to do with democracy in the United States. Actually, in the center of the English-speaking world, right there in Washington, D.C. They have long tentacles that stretch far and wide.
Well, Senator Rule, now you're based in Atlanta, and of course, Georgia is a very, very controversial state when you look at the last elections. And the 12,000 votes that the former President Trump said he needed to get to win, which he did not get. And then, of course, we had January 6th and all of that came afterwards. What is your feedback from what you saw when you were there? Now, you weren't there during the last election. You were there a bit before.
I was there between 2012 and 2017. I think there was a general election, an election in 2016. So it was sort of on the tail end of when I was there during my tenure in office. Georgia is known, especially Atlanta, a place where, you know, they celebrate and they talk a lot about civil rights. And so for them is the passion of the right to vote and exercising their rights to vote. Now, as a diplomat and of course in politics now, I don't make it my business to get deep into their business. You know, that's their business. But certainly it's encouraging to know that from where they've come from to where they are now, many people are not only exercise that right to vote, but are excited about it. And so seeing all the excitement for people now saying, hey, you know, I can't wait to vote. I want to watch it. I want to see what's happening. I think, you know, it speaks to the fact that we've come a long way as a people. And certainly that in itself is interesting.
Well, you know, it's interesting, too, because in the Bahamas, we are known to have high voter turnout in elections. The U.S., not so much so. But this election was apparently had a great turnout, with some 82 million people voting even before today came.
Yeah, that, again, it speaks to, you know, the persons and how far they've come as a country, how far we've come as a country. But, you know, when we look and when they talked about, hey, some people died for the right to vote, people now take it as serious as it should be. You know, that's a democratic right. And so I'm happy to know that, you know, people have decided to go in great numbers and exercise that right.
But again, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the other aspect, this particular election is very special in the cycles of American elections. You have the former president who was defeated, sat out 4 years, and decided to run again. You have a sitting president who voluntarily withdrew from running, and a vice president at the top of the ticket who came into the political fray with only 2.5 to 3 months to go. And then in addition to that, you have all of the forays into local and state elections and senatorial and House of Representative elections.
And then special issues.
And so what you're looking at in the American electoral system at this particular juncture is something out of the ordinary. Mm-hmm. And some of the events and incidents which transpired during the last, particularly during the last 2 months, is telling.
Now, I don't know if you listened, were able to listen carefully to what Armstrong Williams was saying. He started off by saying that Kamala Williams has done phenomenally well, run a great campaign, but he thinks Donald Trump will win. But he says the problem will be is if Donald is him same old self, petty, vindictive, all of these other adjectives he used, that not just America, but the world will be in trouble. What can you say to something like that? I mean, I was kind of dumbfounded by that report.
I think that is a little over the top. Donald Trump is a special personality, bombastic, loud, certainly full of confidence. And Kamala Harris, a former prosecutor, former attorney general, a former senator, the child of two professors, one from Jamaica, one from India, born and grew up in California. And so I understand what Armstrong is getting at, but in the overall scheme of things, America is going to remain the powerhouse of the world. Things are going to revolve around America for quite a while, whether Kamala Harris or Donald Trump is there. Now, if you dive a little deeper and look into their policies, then you begin to extrapolate what will happen for a country like the Bahamas or for like the region
exactly
and for the rest of the world. You look at some of their policies and how will it affect our life in the immediate future and in the medium term.
If we look back, really, the relationship between the Bahamas and the U.S. has been pretty consistent, no matter who's in, Democrats or Republicans. Absolutely. There may be some variations here and there, and then, of course, the good work of diplomats ensure that that relationship stays tight.
Well, the Bahamas' relationship with the United States historically is perhaps, we are the U.S. Third border. It's the United States, Canada, and then it's the Bahamas. We are the third border, and we have had a long-standing historical relationship even as a colony. Geopolitically speaking, the Bahamas is as important to America as any of its states in terms of where we sit, our proximity, and our geopolitical position in the world. So for a number of reasons,
we're important to
apart from the historical reasons and the geographical reasons, for a number of other reasons, the Bahamas is tied to the hip.
It's critical that our relations remain very friendly. Senator Rolle, I'm going to bring you in as well, because there was something that we talked about off camera, and we were talking about Bahamians who are based. We heard, first we should say, we heard that there was an incendiary device that went off, I believe, in Atlanta?
In Atlanta,
right.
Yeah.
So there's an element of danger involved in this. And I think you were having a message for Bahamians who might be a little interested in seeing what the process is. You care to talk about that?
Yeah, most certainly. Bahamians living in the U.S. During this time when there's so much excitement going on, they're going to want or have the urge to want to see, to get involved, to want to be around the festivities and everything, regardless of the end results. But we want Bahamians to exercise a degree of caution. Certainly, you know, we don't know what the end results will be. We don't know what the temperature of the environment will be. And so, you know, and there's a lot of Bahamian students who are there for the first time. Some are still under the age of 21. So, you know, there's young adults. We want them to exercise caution in even watching the results. Like, you know, there's so many parties going on. There's so much energy happening around the place. If you can find a safe environment, then by all means, enjoy. But try to avoid going out, and parents should have a call, call their kids this evening and find out where they're watching the results and express to them the importance of being careful in such an environment, just not knowing what will happen at the end of the evening.
Well, right, and of course many Bahamians have dual citizenship. They're American and Bahamian. And even here right now, there are going to be lots of watch parties, and everyone's, just glued to their television sets. What do you think, because in some cases it seems like Bahamians know more about what's going on in American politics than they know what's going on at home. So what do you think is the real fascination about American politics? And sadly, sometimes people get the systems confused. Because a lot of the things that happen in the United States, particularly legally, are not the same things that are going to happen in the Bahamas.
Well, I'd like to just take off from what the senator had to say with regards to Bahamians throughout the United States. I was in the United States during COVID, during the lockdown, and in the DMV, in the Washington area, there were some very serious moments when we were afraid for the safety of Bahamians. Now, the temperature during a hotly contested national elections in the United States bring out the best and the worst.
Correct.
And some serious things can happen. So I think, Senator, you touched the right button, and Bahamian parents and guardians and well-wishers will do well to find out where their loved ones are, and to give them a word of caution about how they frolic and how they party. Now, regarding the question you posed, which was, if you repeat it,
about the fascination that Bahamians have. And sometimes they're a little bit more knowledgeable about what goes on in the United States than they are what goes on in the Bahamas.
I scanned the radio frequency is about 3 or 4 radio stations today. And the entire debate across the spectrum was the U.S. elections. And Bahamians were calling in, very knowledgeable about the certain aspects of the election, not so much the system, but the players and the media, because the American media live for a time like this. This is when they show their mettle. And so Bahamians get U.S. television. We've been getting U.S. television for 30 or 40 years now. Ever since cable TV came in, we've been getting good, clear U.S. television, and we have choices. And in some respects, Bahamians are more knowledgeable about what is going on in various states in the United States than Americans themselves.
That's right there.
Yeah. And I think I totally agree with you, Ambassador. I think a lot of it has to do with, if you turn on your cable now, you have one ZNS, one R News, one station, and you have so many U.S. news stations. And so through, again, like the Ambassador said, through social media, through the internet, that's all they're saying. And so, they're consuming a lot of it, and based on that, they're forming their opinions. And of course, the relationship with the U.S. being so close. Certainly, many Bahamians love to travel. As a matter of fact, all of the major holidays, most times, you can find a Bahamian going to the U.S., whether it be for Thanksgiving or Christmas. They're spending a lot of time there. And so I believe for them, what happens in the U.S. certainly affects them. Mind you, granted, it's just so much. There's a lot that comes back here too. Experiencing such large numbers in terms of tourism. And so with the interaction on a daily basis, I think that encourages them to want to get to know it. If you're working in the tourism industry, which the majority of the population are, chances are you're going to run into an American on a daily basis. And so a part of the conversation may be, how are things back at home? And so I think all of that festers and starts the conversation, which makes Bahamians that much more interested in what's happening in the U.S.
Okay. Well, we're hearing, we're going to take a break, but we're hearing that as we go to the break, that CNN.com is saying that Trump has won South Carolina. Stay with us. We'll have more after this.
No surprises there.
Ready to score big on unbeatable savings? Tune into What's Trending's Deals and Steals with Ace Hardware every Wednesday at 6 p.m. starting in November. Save on items from power tools to paint, lawn care to Christmas decor. They've got the essentials you need to tackle any project at prices that can't be beat. Dive into their special offers up to 50% off select items. Need a new grill for those backyard barbecues? How about a fresh coat of paint to revamp your space? They've got you covered. That's every Wednesday at 6 p.m. starting in November. Don't miss out on Deals and Steals with Ace Hardware.
Just what is it that you want to do? And we want to have a good time. We want to be free to do what we want to do.
Strong family bonds provide a crucial support system, often filling the gaps that might otherwise lead to reliance on social assistance.
If we get the family structure support system right, you won't see adult children willingly putting their parents in senior citizens' homes. You won't see anyone putting children up for adoption. We should be the safety net for when the family begins to have some challenges.
Addressing the root causes of dependency is essential, as our goal is to shift the focus from merely providing aid to fostering self-reliance.
We must be prepared to move persons from dependency to self-sufficiency to economic empowerment. And I'm asking the public to join us on this journey.
This has been the Heartbeat Brief, an inside look at the Ministry of Social Services, Information and Broadcasting.
Welcome back. Well, one poll said, or one article said, that it might take a couple of days before the true results as to who wins the election comes up, but it looks like it's going to be pretty clear by the end of the night if it keeps up like this. Before the break, we told you that Trump won South Carolina, and now he apparently has won Arkansas. Any surprises about that, about those states, gentlemen, as we...
No surprises. Everybody's looking towards the battleground states.
And that's 07.
5 or 6 states. The traditional electoral results, the returns so far are not surprising. The Republican stronghold, South Carolina, Texas, and some of the other. It's a long night. And so we'll wait and watch and see how the results come in for the entire country.
I hear Texas might be a shakeup for Trump in that it's predicted that he's going to have a rough time in there, but we'll see as it goes on. You have any comments on this, Senator?
No, I think, like Ambassador said, there is the electoral college votes, and those are the important ones based on the system, the U.S. system. And so I think until those start coming in, then you will get a clearer picture. What he said already is what has been happening is what I guess is expected.
Yeah. It's interesting because Jonathan Karl had an interview with Donald Trump last week, or on the weekend, and he said what stunned him was that he asked Donald Trump if he saw a possibility of him losing this election, and he had a long pause, and he said, yeah, we could lose. And he was taken aback by that because he said that's not something that Trump would actually sort of put forward.
You know how the American system operates. polling data foreshadows long in advance, and there are a host of polling data from the universities to foundations to internal polling from the two camps. And so when he says, yes, we can lose, he was being fed information, their own personal information from polling data, which was crunching the numbers and giving them a heads up on what is quite possible. And it's the same thing on the Democratic side.
Oh, yeah. Any comments on that?
No, again, you know, I just watch like every Bahamian. One of the things that I'm interested in seeing come to fruition is, I think for many years now, Ambassador, we have been without a U.S. ambassador here in the Bahamas. And
very long time, actually.
We were close. I think in the last term, there was one nominated.
And she died before she could...
No, even after that.
So there was
another one from Georgia.
That's right.
Yeah.
A gentleman.
Yeah. And
he got himself in some kind of...
I don't know what happened.
But well, what actually happened was he did not acquit himself well in the first round of confirmation before the Senate. He could not answer basic questions about the Bahamas.
That's right. He said something that was...
Doug, his name was Doug somebody.
Yeah, it was... that was really quite embarrassing.
He didn't go... He never was able to advance to the next round.
That's true.
And I think the administration was a little embarrassed. That's an indication that they did not do their vetting well enough. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Electoral College for a bit, because that's something that is very different for us. Something that always confuses me a little bit. But I think you were saying, Mr. Roll, that in Georgia there are 15 of those...
16 in Georgia, yes. It's the 16 in Georgia. Arizona has 2. Michigan, I think it's 15. Nevada, I think a small number as well. But the big one I think, is Pennsylvania, which is about 19.
And that's, that's why they're all focusing on Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting in Pennsylvania, you remember Trump well, not Trump himself, he didn't really say it, but the comedian at his rally who said, referred to Puerto Rico as an island, a floating island of garbage.
Garbage, yes.
And apparently, well, if you depend on which news media you listen to, but the Puerto Ricans in North Philadelphia said, we're going to remember that. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in that state. But there are you have to hit 270 in the Electoral College to actually win the presidency.
That's right.
So it really doesn't matter what happens everywhere else unless you get that 270.
And again, fundamentally, that's the difference between the parliamentary system and what they call the representative form of government. The parliamentary system is one man, one vote, and the winner is 50% plus one. And for each individual candidate forms the electoral process. In the presidential election, at the same time with the senatorial and the House of Representative election, what you have in the United States system is representative electoral votes from the states. And as Senator Roll indicated, each state, depending on its size, gets a certain amount of electoral vote. And the state, after the election is over, and that's not the end of it, because the state has to certify the results. And then the results have to be sent to Congress and then be further certified by the Vice President.
So that's why
that was the problem in 2020. Was it 2020 with the insurrection?
Right. Well, you have January 6, 2021, which is a day. I mean, I just couldn't believe it when I saw the feed start coming out. It really made my heart sink. But Bannon, who recently just came out of prison, and his first comments, at least the ones that are being attributed to him, were that, well, if you thought we were divisive before, you haven't seen anything yet. And, which really, maybe he's being truthful, but after what happened in January of 2021, how do you say something like that?
Well, you know, Steve Bannon is an international right-winger, unapologetically. He's got organizations all over Europe and all over the United States with a certain political agenda. The reason why he went to prison, because he was deeply involved in the insurrection, and some say riot, on January 6, 2021. He served his time, but while he was in, he was busy working behind the scene, and he came out, and he's a flamethrower. He came out unapologetically a Trumper, and don't take him lightly. Now, what I'm happy about is I saw the governors of all of the battleground states and some of the blue wall states, and even some of the more traditional Republican states said, January 6th is not going to happen again. They've put the National Guard on standby. They've beefed up their police and private security and even the military. Because with open carry and with some of the hotheads, especially in the Midwest and in the Deep South, who was saying carrying weapons openly during January 6th. And many of them are organized. And so it is smart that the governors of these states are preparing for any eventuality.
Yeah, it's smart to be prepared. Yeah. Let's talk about the low-level politics that goes on in the United. I mean, well, you know, in politics you can throw some blows here and there. It's bound to happen. But don't you think that sometimes it just gets really at an unacceptable low?
For me, I like I said, same thing. I want to see, like the Bahamas and other places, things more that unite us than divide us. Elections are good because, again, it allows you to express your democratic right. But at the same time, too, when it's done, you know, I think it's incumbent upon leaders, all leaders, to now unite the forces and create that unity that will help to build and grow the country. And the sooner that is done, I think the better it is for growth overall. And so, you know, the Bahamas, like I said, we share good relations with the U.S. And so we, as my position and that of the government is, you know, we're not taking a position. Our thing is, listen, whoever wins, we have to work with. We must continue to build that relationship. We owe that to the Bahamian people. And I think all administrations understand that, even within our country. You know, myself, having served under Progressive Liberal Party, Ambassador Colley, who served under a Free National Movement government, we now understand that it's good. We watch it, we see what happens, you know, and many people now in the country are having their watch parties. But after this is done, said and done, the sooner that the nation heals, the better it is for growth moving forward for everyone. And again, going back to what you said about some of the comments and us looking back at January 6th, there may be some individuals who do not take this, whatever the results are, in the spirit in which it should happen. And so it's very important that we preach, especially to our citizens and our nationals, please exercise caution when enjoying what's happening in the U.S. And so I'm sorry for repeating myself, but I cannot reiterate that, listen, it's super important. I think we all agree of the importance of unity after this is all said and done.
I'd just like to add that political leaders have a huge sense of responsibility with the language they use during the heat of a national political campaign. And you will notice in this particular election, the temperature has gone through the roof with regards to invective, language that is not just bad for coming from the politician, but it tends to incite the hothead, your supporters.
Exactly.
And I mean, a case in point is Donald Trump. There was an attempted assassination of him at one of his rallies, and quite possibly a second attempt.
Right, right.
Now, he's quite known for using inflammatory language. And there's been a lot of inflammatory language, not only by the politicians, but by their surrogates. As a matter of fact, the surrogates, if you've been watching some of the cable news outlet, and they have them almost on a nightly basis, the surrogates have been deeply, deeply invective in their language.
His deputy, Vance, seems to be trying to outdo him on that level.
Absolutely.
Listen, we have to take a break. We're going to be back with more after the break. We'll take a closer look at the two candidates who are running and some other issues that may be more relevant to the Bahamas as well. Stay with us.
I find your red kidney bean with coconut milk to be absolutely wonderful. The flavor within the coconut milk just make the rice stand out even more.
It's been 30 years, and for as long as I've known you, I've always enjoyed your products, especially your coconut water. It's the closest thing to getting it fresh out of the coconut itself. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this delicious coconut water. It's the best on the market.
JBI coconut water has always been my choice of coconut water because it's just the closest thing to the natural thing. They're always on stock, and I love it.
Try JBI. Happy anniversary, JBI.
Congratulations on your 30th year.
Happy anniversary, JBI.
Thank you, Bahamas.
What does disability look like? In a busy airport terminal? At the check-in counter? At security checkpoints? Or even in baggage claim? Passengers with hidden disabilities often go unnoticed. Globally, 1 in 7 persons have some form of a disability. 80% of those disabilities are non-visible. In an airport environment, workers are often unaware of hidden physical, mental, or neurological disabilities that some passengers live with. This can lead to frustration and a less than ideal travel experience. So, how do we make the invisible more visible? At LPIA, we've implemented the Sunflower Lanyard program. The lanyards are visual cues for airport workers to immediately identify passengers who might need additional assistance. NAD is teaming up with the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities and key stakeholders at LPIA to launch the internationally recognized initiative. We're joining more than 180 airports and 26 countries already in the program. NAD is the first organization in the Bahamas to recognize the Sunflower Initiative. It's a way to show our continued commitment to making LPIA a safe, welcoming, and inclusive airport for all. Passengers needing to secure a free Sunflower lanyard can email sunflower@nas.bs or call 1242-397-8600. For more information, visit www.nassauLPIA.com.
Welcome back. Now, of course, we know that it's Kamala Harris, the Democratic candidate, against Donald Trump, the former president, who is, of course, the Republican candidate. Gentlemen, what's the attraction? Bahamians are passionate about. You would think we could vote, most of us, in this election. There's some serious Kamala fans and supporters, and there's some serious Donald Trump fans and supporters. What do you think is the fascination or the attraction that Bahamians have to either one of these candidates that they can't vote for?
I think, if I take the first,
definitely.
Take the first bite at it, I think Donald Trump, we'll start with him. When he came down the golden escalator in 2016, as a brand new candidate, they called him the ultimate outsider.
And he was actually president during your tour of duty.
He accepted my letters of credentials. Right. I have a big picture of him in my office. The media described him as unconventional, unorthodox, billionaire, strong man who came to shake up the system. He was not a part of what they call the swamp or the deep state. He was an outsider, and there's a certain element of American society that gravitate around that. As a matter of fact, for the 9 years that he's been in frontline politics, he's kept that base of about 34% of the electorate. Of course, that's not enough to give you a victory, but it's a base. Kamala Harris is a breath of fresh air. She's a woman. She's a black woman. She's a professional. And she's the sitting vice president. And her appeal is the champion for women, particularly after the Supreme Court rolled back the almost 60-year Roe versus Wade, a woman's right to choose. And Kamala has taken that, forgive me for saying Kamala, Vice President Harris has taken that and made it a personal agenda and has done a wonderful job with it, even before she became the nominee at the top of the ticket.
I think she was a lot of supporters just because of that alone.
She was now, the negative side of that is there's a certain element of the U.S. society who will never vote for a woman.
So misogyny is still there.
Absolutely. And some who will never vote for a black woman.
Yeah, so that's a double whammy.
But there's an element, there's a constituency that can't wait to see Kamala win the election and sit in the White House. And I think that is resonating with us being right on the doorstep, Bahamians with Bahamians.
I think I was very passionate about it. It's almost as if we're just a little less passionate in our own general elections. I have some friends right now who are big Donald Trump fans, and I tell you the others who aren't. And there's some clashes.
Oh,
you know, there's some clashes.
I agree with Ambassador. I believe, you know, Donald Trump, I think he had some investments here in the Bahamas a number of years. He, I think one time Atlantis
he was a shareholder of resorts in the national.
Exactly.
Okay.
With Merv Griffin.
With Merv Griffin, right. So there is some ties with some of the citizens here in the Bahamas. As it relates to Kamala Harris, I think the fact that she's a woman, you know, this is a big thing. You know, we are here in the Bahamas pushing, I think for the first time, we have more women in frontline politics, and so that within itself has a large following.
In the Bahamas, you think we have more women in frontline politics?
I mean, this term in office, there are more women than there was before. And so, you know, we have a woman Speaker of the House, a woman President of the Senate, a woman Governor General. And so that's a big movement, woman movement, that's going on even right in the country. On top of that, she is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority.
And that's a big deal.
And that's a big deal here.
I think you know what I'm doing when I say that, right?
My wife.
Exactly.
My wife, who is Miss Alpha Kappa Alpha, is holding a watch party right now, and with a whole bunch of AKAs, and they sitting on the edge of their seat in support of Kamala. And that is like wildfire throughout the Bahamas, throughout the Caribbean.
Yeah, so I think all of that is a part of what keeps it exciting for Bahamians. And so all of that, just a lot of similarities. And again, in a couple of hours, we should know the results.
Yeah. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left, and I'm going to ask one question, then I'll allow you to say your concluding statements, if you will. But overall, what can we learn from the American political process that we could possibly adapt to our system the way it is, and to help improve the way things are and the way we do politics in the Bahamas?
Well, let me jump in. We have to be careful importing in our system certain elements of foreign democratic systems that are not compatible with our history. Now, I haven't said that because all that glitters is not gold in the American system, in any system.
And it might not work here.
Even though they tout their constitution and the checks and balances that it has with the executive, the legislative, and the judicial, the parliamentary system of government has been in process since 1066, over 1,000 years. And so while it has its problems, we have a system of government that has stood the test of time, and our form of democracy works. And India, for example, is the largest democratic nation in the world.
Yes.
And India, along with the 67 Commonwealth countries, which use the parliamentary democratic system, is proof that we have a good system. It's not perfect, but it's a good system.
Can I get some final comments from you, Senator?
Most definitely, just chiming in on what he's just said. Giving credit to our former forefathers and our leaders. You know, we have a system of elections that has had nonviolence. And I think that's something that we should be proud of, where people around the world wish for nonviolent elections. And so I think the U.S. can learn a lot from the Bahamas.
I'm sure they can.
You know, we're a small country, but we're a proud nation. Like I said, we enjoy elections. In the U.S., they say, don't talk about religion and politics. Here in the Bahamas, you talk about religion and politics. And so we have shown a level of maturity that's second to none around the world.
Well, that's the final word. I'm going to leave it like that. Former Ambassador to the United States, Sidney Colley, Senator Randy Rose, a former Consul General to Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for being with us tonight. And we thank you for joining us, and we will soon find out, hopefully tonight, who actually the new President of the United States is. Good night.